Welcome to Sunday Fun Day. I'm your host, Akil Patterson. And what I'm going to do today is what I wanted to do from the very jump, is to give you the individual background stories of everybody that's going to be a consistent member of my team. First, I'm going to introduce you to Mark, the instigator, Togme. Now, like I said, most people from the first episode might remember said I made reference to like he's been on a television show and he's done a lot of cool things in his career. He's worked in the music and film industry. Mark, why don't you tell me about why I keep referencing you were on a television show and kind of like how you became the instigator?
Well, I think the first thing you would say is that if you asked my mom these questions, she would say, I came out this way. So it's not an act. You know, there's positives and benefits for being someone who's unique, who strikes first, who kind of walks fruit forward, for whatever that means, like being different. I've never been a joiner in my whole life. I'm a 50-year-old heterosexual white male who's been married to the same gal for 22 plus years. I've got 2 boys who still speak to me and love me, who are 16 and 18. One's in college, one's in high school playing sports. I'm not dealing with a lot of the familial issues that folks are dealing with their kids, as much as I'm dealing with a contractual relationship that with my own marriage is kind of a steamer. So that'll put perspective on anything I say, probably. Graduated college after trying 3 different ones in the 90s when you were supposed to go to one and finish in 4 years and then go work for a corporation or a PAC and get your silver watch. And I think I fucked up along the lines a few ways with that, like idea of who my life story was, but was that my parents' idea of what they wanted, or was that really what was, my idea? Found myself in the film business, a subculture, basically, of kids who probably didn't always get invited to birthday parties, to grade schools and middle schools when they were growing up. Like it's kind of a world of misfits who understand storytelling, and I loved it. It was exactly how I was genetically created to probably create wealth or, a living doing it. But at the same time, it provides its own set of issues. It's not exactly conducive to a marriage or raising kids and being, present for your kids. And so my wife said, hey, you're going down a road I'm not going down. You need to make a choice. And I was like, just coming off the Californication tour, I'm like, Wayne Isham puts me on a little plane.
Californication tour?
That's STP, Chili Peppers, I think 97, 98, somewhere around there.
Stop. So hold on. You were literally on tour working with bands and stuff that were like with Red Hot Chili Peppers and other groups.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino had a production company called Mr. Pink Productions.
Mr. Pink. Yes.
Okay.
So Reservoir Dogs. Come
Reservoir
on.
Dogs.
You're talking. Why do I got Mr. Pink, Mr. Pink? I'll be Mr. Gray, that kind of thing. All right, go ahead.
He had this production company, and this production company's main goal was the music video side of tours. So this is back in the day when CDs and laser discs were still being used. So you could put your CD in a DVD player and you could watch the tour, or you could put the CD in your audio of your car and listen to the songs.
Yeah, I did that for Slipknot.
Okay. So the same idea.
And Up in Smoke tour.
Australian assistant director. The director is the Wayne Isham. Wayne Isham started off as a roadie back in the day in the late 70s and became the prolific director of your Pink Floyd videos in the 80s, your Motley Crue videos in the 80s. If you were a band in the 80s and you were big, Wayne Isham was likely doing your music videos. Right on. So Wayne Isham is contracted to direct the Californication tour. So that is all kinds of new technology, 56 cameras. You're talking like, cameras on cranes, but then you're talking about lipstick cameras. This is like some of the first times that lipstick cameras are being used. Small cameras that can be attached to microphones, can be attached to necks of guitars, can be attached to give the viewer a completely different experience from the show. Underneath the stage is a whole other world. Like there's monitors, there's a whole world you can sit in underneath the stage. It's happening. You've got, headphones on, and you've got monitors, so you can watch all the cameras attached to all of the different implements above you on stage. So, for instance, when the opening band comes on, you're testing all the cameras, right? You've got them on their guitars. You're making sure everything's working. So when there's an intermission and the headlining act is coming on, the Chili Peppers are coming on for this, you're working out the kinks. So that means that someone has to go on stage to the lead singer's microphone in front of 80,000 people who are screaming all kinds of shit at you. Like it's like a faux experience of being famous. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
trust me, I
you know what I mean. Like you're collateral damage to the activity, but yet you're caught up in the energy of it. So there's that energy. So long story short, the idea is that you shoot all these different tour stops, you edit it into a full tour of the show that someone can put in their DVD and watch the tour, or they can put in their car and listen to. And so I make it as far, I start in Vancouver and I make it as far as to LA. And then by the time I'm in LA, I'm just like, Wayne Isham's like, you need to go back home. He's like, you haven't, I think he said to me, he's like, when was the last time you talked to your wife? And I'm like, I haven't talked to her in like a couple of weeks. He's like, you need to get out of here. So he put me on a little plane. I think I got into Portland at like 2:00 in the morning or some shit. I took a cab. My wife was like in her scrubs. Our front door had like glass through it so you could see right into the kitchen. And I got my bags and I was just get off the road. I'm like, partying hard. And like, there she is getting ready for work. And that's when she lays it out on me, dude. Like she says, you're going down the road. So then she suggests real estate. I'm like, what am I going to do? Right? Like I'm going to leave this incredible thing that I love, that I'm just born to do. I understood the politics of it. I understood how to motivate different departments. I understood how to benefit them. I understood anticipation and moving crew and shots and the whole 9 yards. And she's like, real estate. I'm like, oh my God, you want me to become a realtor? I couldn't stick my fist down my throat fast enough, dude. And she goes, oh no, you're not a real estate agent. Like, we'll buy our own stuff and invest and flip and blah, 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 blah. So that's how I was lured into it. And then 20 years later, here I am. I've had my license for 20 years. I'm probably top 1% as far as negotiating and being true to a client and not letting the commission get in my way or cause me to make a decision that's not in the best interest. I don't have a website. I never have. I'm referral only. I never wanted to put a website out there where anybody could reach out to me, because if you hadn't had an experience with someone that had already worked with me, then maybe you wouldn't like me and like how I work it, because I'm different.
So I guess for
So
that,
that's it in a nutshell. That's me in a nutshell.
no, but I guess when you're talking about that, because one thing I normally I love to talk about, because you know me, like I'm a person that's able to draw out stories, right? And I love being able to tell people stories. But the hard part is when you sit there and said, I didn't have a website and I didn't want people to have access to me, like unfeathered access. How do you keep people kind of in your wheelhouse, like in your world, when you don't give them untethered access, like to everything? Because a lot of folks right now, like again, let's look at how people, we talked about this on one of our episodes about people like they're seeking fame, that's the generation that people are in now. And so everything has to be on social media. It has to be out there. But what I've always learned, and this is from some very successful people, is like wealth moves in silence. It does not tell you where it's going. It simply shows up. But along the way, it drops clues.
Another way of looking at that is that wealth walks with its money. It doesn't run. Same idea. It shows up. All of a sudden you're just there, right? Like if you run, like you notice that in the goddamn
because they're
they're running.
Yeah,
They're doing something that's not the same as everybody else who's comfortable, who's been there before. I think that I owe a lot to genes. I was raised by a Canadian.
like Levi jeans.
Just genetics. Like I was raised by a Canadian. My father was Canadian. He didn't get his citizenship until he was like in his 60s here in the United States. So I always got like a unfettered administrative background, like, the politics in the States. So I had that. Like, it wasn't like my father was like, oh, those goddamn Democrats, or like, I'm a Republican. It was more like, oh, those people, right? So I had like a unbiased, objective view from above of what was going on here. I didn't grow up with racism in my household. I didn't grow up with racist terminology. So that shit wasn't a foreign thing to me. And if you were experiencing that, then that was a shitty thing and something should be done about it. I had a sister that was very high achieving. I had a younger brother that was very high achieving. I fell in the middle. I was the one that tested the rules in the family. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was the vice principal of the high school I went to. He was in charge of discipline. So you couldn't, I couldn't like f around. I couldn't do a lot of the things that.
Because if you'd f around, you'd find out real fast.
Well, or like even there would be groups that wouldn't want me in their group because they were afraid that I would go tell dad what was going on the weekends. So I experienced a strange set of weird stiff arm from social groups in high school.
Interesting.
Well, because you're the son of the disciplinarian at the high school. Now, I didn't ever think about it. It's because I'm kind of a ditz as far as that shit's concerned. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm the son of the disciplinarian. No, I was an equal dick to every teacher and administrator at the school. I was as much like every other student as anybody else could be at the school. I had a very supportive. We get footsteps. That's not Juice.
No.
It's a female. The guys are waving as a female wave. So someone's here that's a female.
It's the wife.
How perceptive am I? My back is to the whole. All I heard was footsteps. I just think that I had a different perspective growing up, and I was also in a very, what I would call a very enclosed state capital, Salem, which has got its own limit of opinion, and it's got its own like ceiling of thought. It's pretty limited, and I think I realized that at a pretty early age, and I don't think that made it easy on me making friends.
Okay.
So we're getting back to like, I think the whole part of this was like not getting invited to birthdays. I can't remember what your first.
Well, the way I said it was, I was actually trying to get back to like the business aspect of like when people don't have untethered access to you, right? Like what I said, like wealth moved in silence. That's always been one of the big conversations that I've always learned about myself is like wealth moved in silence. So if you don't know those people, you don't ever gain access to them. But if you start to learn who those people are, who the players are, then you can gain access to like kind of where they're going. And that's like, hey, where are these people buying homes? Like, where are they going on vacation? Where are they developing like new products at? Who do I need to be in? Like, who's the leader of the band? Who's the manager of the band? Because remember, a lot of people, they always like, oh, I'm going to go to the famous person. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to the famous person. I want to know who their agent is. I want to know who the executive
But that's because
director.
of your knowledge. That's because of.
But that's because I learned it.
Right.
Like nobody told me those things, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so for you, did someone tell you those? Again, I'm a black kid, from a city. You're a white kid from a different type of city. Like, like which one? Like, how did you gain access? Because I tell people all the time, I'm like, I just kept talking to people until somebody listened.
It was that was your competitive because so I consider what you have as a competitive disadvantage because of the color of your skin and your background story. It's a competitive disadvantage. It's not a disadvantage. It's like something that's drag. It's like 15 pounds of extra weight that you have to carry, or 25 pounds, that doesn't make you as fast and as agile as you could be.
I'm
okay?
an old lineman, baby. I was never as fast as I could
But
be.
do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have good genetics in America, if you got a white family and let's say you're a Catholic and they're both still married and one's a professional, and you got kids that are semi-intelligent and handsome, because that matters. How you look matters, and how you speak matters.
Absolutely.
And I think I speak well and I look well. And I think that those are the two advantages that I have in being able to follow wealth.
So I look good.
You do.
And here's the great thing.
You do look good.
I do. I know I do. But here's the weird thing is when I got told I spoke so well, it was almost like an insult in my community.
It is.
But it was the uplifter outside of my community.
It's
it
an
was
aberration.
Like, it's like, Akil speaks well. Grab him. We will put him in front of all the cameras. Like when I went to University of Maryland and played football, I remember specifically our director of communications come up to me and goes, "Hey, Akil, we would need you to be our spokesperson." I was like, "For what?" They're like, "Whatever we want." I was like, "Okay." Because I was just like, "Oh, they're putting me in front of cameras."
That's called the Shirley Temple phenomenon.
Is that what they do? They put it like,
No.
Good trip, lollipop.
No, because dude, you break the line. You break the stereo. We were talking earlier, like you guys were so surprised when I said that cop said that.
Yeah, he said that hard R, and we're like, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah,
you
because
said that.
because it was a fulfilled stereotype. Because it's all he'd seen. He didn't see a bunch of Caucasian people doing dog fights throughout Portland with moving trucks. When they arrested people and they did the investigation, the detectives went ahead and provided a case to the prosecutors, and they prosecuted. It was blacks. So then all of a sudden the summary is that guess who's involved in dogfighting? And Michael Vick. Okay, so like who got prosecuted heavily
Oh yeah, Michael
for
Vick.
his involvement?
Yeah, Michael Vick gets prosecuted, but it's like, but was he really the orchestrator?
So
of the whole deal?
are you really surprised by the hard R now?
Well, I still am because it's like,
Really?
because where I'm from, because I look at everything as like a logical, practical standpoint. The people who have access to get all these dogs and these mobile things and to set up all these operations, you got to have a lot of money and connections.
I don't think you have to have a lot of money. I think it's
bro.
done on the fucking.
Bro.
I don't think that's the whole point.
Like a lot of this stuff is like money and connections. Like you have to have somebody that's willing to let you use 10 acres of land to grow illegal weed. Do you know a lot? I didn't grow up with a lot of people that knew that had 10 acres of land.
I don't
or
disagree
50
with.
acres of land.
I don't disagree
that's what I
with
mean.
that as far
Like
as
the drug cartels, drugs got into America how? Not because the guy in the hood decided to be, hey guys, we're just going to start growing poppy seeds back here and we'll make our own heroin. Like, yeah, it didn't happen. We don't have the planes either.
I think that cultures in America that are below the quote unquote middle line of poverty, mostly minorities,
Disadvantage.
are only given a certain amount of options, dude, to make money.
Yeah. But how about this? We hold the bag, but who holds that bag? Like remember, when you get
When you
busted.
say you hold the bag, what do you mean?
Okay, so like so say you're riding in a car with your buddy, right? And you guys had some illegal drugs. Let's say back in the day, let's say it's the 90s, you had some weed.
Gotcha.
The person who had like the ounce of weed in the car is the black guy. Now, who's got the 20 pounds that he bought that ounce off? The guy in the inner city. Now, who's got the 100,000 pounds of weed that got flown into America and got put into that other guy's pocket? Who's that dude? It's generally not the black guy in the hood or the white guy or the person that's like, or the woman living in poverty. It's normally some multi-millionaire dude who's got a yacht and like 4 houses in South Beach, Miami.
But if you're white America and you play the short game, then you're upset about the drug dealer that was selling the weed to the kids.
Yeah, that's what everyone always says. They're like, oh, these drug dealers are to blame. I'm like, are they? Who put fentanyl on a plane and flew it here? Because again, it ain't me.
I know, but again, like
I don't own the shipping yard or the freight yard.
but you always like switch to this higher overview level of what is going on in America. And that's not what's going on in America. You're totally right. You're not wrong on anything you're saying, but like we have an issue with the drug dealers. And the problem is like,
It's like
they're not really the problem.
No, the drug dealer just happens to live down the street from you, and you can see them.
The drug dealer doesn't have any other options.
They don't have any money. Like to me, that's not real money.
This is what they got to do to be able to have a car, to have a rent, to pay for their kids they have, to have food in their plate. I mean, am I wrong?
No, I don't think you are. I mean,
Are all the drug dealers, are all the male black drug dealers that are making money in America, keeping all the money and not giving it to anybody that's in their family at all?
God, no.
Okay,
God, no.
so then guess what? Commerce is happening.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you another question. Like, why is he choosing? Why predominantly in those neighborhoods? Drugs. Well, how else would you like get through the shit of the day, dude? That you're handed.
You ain't wrong, because poverty knows no color, and most people always say it's the poorest among us that end up getting addicted first, right?
Do you know who truly educated white people have the biggest issue with?
Yeah.
White trash.
Really?
Oh, dude.
What to you is white trash, though? Like, I don't know.
Take the same socioeconomic level that black poverty is in any one state, and because it's applicable to white, there's exactly.
Oh yeah.
And then take those and point your finger at those. Go, dude. You got no excuse.
I'm more empathetic.
I know. I'm being very frank with you, dude, because right off the bat, you already had that one privilege. If we're talking about privilege, that's a real thing, and we're going to really debate about it. And I don't disagree with it, but then you already had the privilege of white skin, so you should already have a level aspect that you should be able to create from that.
All right, so back to how that turns into economic mobility, right? Because that's I like to focus on the economics of things, because that's where I believe is the real game changer for all of us.
Okay, so here's something you know a lot about.
So like an 18-year-old kid right now. 18-year-old kid right now thinks that, I gotta grow up to get a Bugatti, and I gotta be on Instagram, and I gotta treat women like crap. And it's like, wait a second, who are you listening to that said that was a good idea? Like
Andrew Tate.
Maybe,
well, that's an example.
I mean,
That'd be an
example. Yeah, it's an example. So let's say they are listening to somebody like that. They are listening to these people online that, like, look, most people don't have any male mentors anymore.
No, they do.
Ooh, they do?
Yeah, of course.
Really?
Yeah, the proliferation of the internet creates all kinds of mentors.
Oh, so everyone's mentor is just some whack-a-mole.
Think about it, man. Like, go online right now, and I could show you a plethora, almost like gratuitous and voluminous plethora of white males that have believed at the age of 50 they can coach everybody else on what they should do with their lives and how they should make their decisions. I mean, that's $1 billion industry, dude.
I don't think any man should tell any other man what to do. I think another man could say, hey, listen, here are some options in how you should start developing yourself and your career and your track record.
Agreed.
And somewhere along the line, you find yourself. I mean, because isn't that what we all do? Like,
that's a very ethereal. That's a very ethereal way of looking at it. I don't disagree with you, but that's not how it's being played out. How it's being played out is what you're talking about. Like, people are praying to false gods, man. Like left and right. It's ridiculous. There's like the fall of Rome has never been more clear to me. Like this is exactly how it was during the fall of Rome.
Yes. Prostitutes, massive, drug use, overeating.
No one caring.
Oh no! It was remember you ever heard of a vomitarium?
Yeah, like the feather down the throat.
Yeah, like they would put their finger down the throat and they throw up and then they eat again. They would gorge
themselves.
And I was like, wait a second. Like, listen, if this was ancient times, I'd be a king.
Yeah,
because look how plump I am.
No, they would love you.
They would love me because you must be rich and successful. because you have enough money to eat all the time, and you can eat whatever you want. And I do the Queen Margaret, like, let them eat cake.
Yeah, no, you would be a cake guy. I could see that. Yeah. It'd be a lot of frosting.
A lot of frosting.
No, but like I don't disagree with a lot of the things that you necessarily think. I just know that like the roadmap is paved
with bad intention.
Just with an intention that's not for a service-minded, useful purpose. It's not. It's like what do they always say, that you're supposed to always test yourself as an entrepreneur by asking yourself if you're providing a useful and helpful service to humankind.
So are we?
Depends on the service.
Well, I mean, are we providing a service as male mentors?
I think that people don't know enough about each of us. And
I don't mean us right now. I mean just in general.
I think conversation.
Are male mentors providing a use case that is actually being valuable, or have we gone down a rabbit hole where male mentors no longer are? Because remember, a male mentor in 1950 was a guy in a nice suit. He worked hard. He took care of his family. A male mentor in the 1990s was a person who was teaching you about, forward thinking, progressive issues, working on the internet. A male mentor in the 2000s was telling you about how they came up through the 70s and how their lives were. And then now a male mentor today is, I'm 20 years old and I just made $1 million off of this one investment. Let me show you how to do it. It's like, wait a second. Is that true? Is that what a male mentor needs to be? Is just like the person who's just made the most money?
I think a true mentor is somebody who's probably experienced a certain quantitative amount of time of life of experience. So I think that for me, I would always view a mentor as somebody who was older, who had experience. Doesn't even necessarily be in a suit, not at all, because I've been into Penn Hills with guys who did, felony raps in prison for murder, who opened up pizza places. That's a dichotomy all of itself. So I don't think we can put it in a conscript like that. I don't think it's fair. I think it's a great question, and I think it's actually a question that more of a panel would be interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because you're bringing up a good point.
Yeah, we're going to bring up, and these are more questions. So here's a question for you now.
You know what I'm saying? Like a mentor to me is not a 20-year-old kid, because I'm 50. So I'm not going to look up to a 20-year-old kid.
But there are literally 30-year-olds that look up to 20-year-olds because they made the most money. And everyone's like, oh, I want to be like them. I'm like, why?
But that's their value system. That goes back to your question about fame.
Okay, so value systems dictate kind of who you believe should be a mentor.
Totally.
Okay. That right?
Of course, that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
Because if you have a low value system, then someone like Jeffrey Epstein would be a high value character, because he made a lot of money. But am I wrong?
No,
Akil?
He made a lot of money, but
in the value system that we were talking,
nobody actually could ever say how he made his money.
He didn't. He wasn't very successful, dude.
He was just like, he was very disgusting, and
he knew how to. He was a chess player.
He leveraged disgusting behaviors.
He's like your. He's the well-funded industries version of FTX.
Okay, so he was a giant Ponzi scheme.
He was using his whole plan was to use dirt, I think, on all these figures. That was his power play.
Well, that was not actually a bad one either.